My arms hurt so much. I was doing climbing yesterday and I definitely can feel it. There was a couple of times where I couldn't like feel much feet worked. And the only way to pull up was to kind of like grab onto something and then like really pull your body up. And climbing is, I don't have the energy I want to keep doing that class, but because I really like the three people that I saw there. Um, and but I don't know if I'll be able to do it because um, you need a lot of to do climbing. You really do need a lot of strength. When you're doing badminton, you don't need a lot of strength. The racket's light, and the puck is light. But to do climbing, you actually do need real strength to pull yourself up. And a lot of the footholds are small, and some of them are just really hard to grab, and therefore you have to kind of like really you have to stretch your body out. And I can definitely feel it in my arms. But anyway, I don't know if I'll do that one again. I want to, but I think I'm gonna have to not do that again because I don't feel well enough. But I when I was at when I was playing badminton, I was having quite a lot of thoughts in my head because it was reminding me of a lot of things that I thought when I was young, when I was at uni. I did lots of different sports, and I sort of analysed people a lot. I always did that. And I kind of worked out that there was like different sports kind of attract different types of people. Either it attracts different types of people or it helps turn people into different types of people, because I was thinking like, why are all these people so different? Does the sport that they choose kind of like have a reflection, or does it help mold them into a certain character based on what they like? I found that the circus skills was just like a bunch of different skills, and because of that it actually attracted quite a lot of people that were actually very different, because some preferred stilt walking, some preferred juggling, some preferred there was just like lots of different skills and fireworking and stuff, and therefore it kind of attracted like a big group of people that actually had kind of different interests. And a lot of them, I think, kind of lost interest after a while, so I didn't get that many regulars there. And I think after halfway through the year, I know we ended up not getting anyone, so we stopped it. And then I did climbing was definitely the best group of people because it wasn't a competitive sport. People weren't competing to be better than each other. It was more about help. It was more about teamwork. I preferred the belaying because I didn't need ropes and I didn't need. I preferred that because you could just keep doing it. Whereas if you wanted, we didn't have that many. We had a good wall, but that there was only a limited number of people who can use it, and because there was like about 30 to 40 people in the group, sometimes there'd be a large queuing. So it was annoying because I really liked it. When I really liked the idea of climbing back then because I couldn't really get on the wall, but I didn't usually have a partner. Like I did have friends in the group, but I don't know, I didn't like the awkwardness of saying, can you hold me, or something like that. So I didn't like approaching people and that, so I kind of just stuck to the B-daying mostly. But this time they had they actually had like the automatic ones where you just climb up and it kind of grabs you. So I enjoyed using that, although it was a bit awkward at the beginning because I went all the way up to the top and then I realised, oh wait, how are you supposed to get down? And then you're just supposed to like jump and it just assume that it's going to catch you and you're just like, is this gonna work? That was a bit nervous, but nerve wracking. But I liked it. But it reminds me of the different types of people and what was it? Trampolining. Trampoline was a competitive one, definitely competitive. You see other people doing flips or doing different positions, and you wonder, you want to be very critical of yourself. Did I do it like that? Or if you see someone doing it that looks very messy and you think, oh, that looked very messy, it kind of makes you think, well, do I do it messy? Do I do it like that? Like, how do I even know what I'm doing? And then if you see someone like doing a double flip, you think, oh, I want to do a double flip. And then you could spend ages trying to learn how to do a double flip. I can't remember if I managed to do that or not. But I know I like to see what people are doing and then try and copy them. And then you've always got this, can I actually do that? Am I going to hurt myself if I do that? And so I found trampolining actually kind of made me far more it knocked my confidence back because I was constantly thinking, can I do it? And then once you learn how to do it, you can. That's great. And then you find someone that does like a triple flip, and then you're just like, oh my gosh, now I have to try and do that now, do I? And so you constantly see what other people do, and if they can do something that you can't, you actually end up feeling bad, and then it makes you want to do it. But then you sort of think, am I putting myself in danger? Am I going to get my hair caught? Am I going to do something wrong? And therefore, I did like it and I do enjoy it, but there was a lot. It wasn't a very not friendly group, but it was kind of like competitive. In it made you want to be better, and it made you question yourself. And then with tennis, I felt like even though there was a tennis group and everyone was supposed to be like very similar, I actually felt like there was a lot of bitchiness between the guys, and maybe not so much the girls, but I think because the guys were more competitive when it comes to it. But I was thinking, why is it that the tennis guys were so much more bitchier people than climbing? And I guess the answer was that what I came up with the conclusion is with tennis, you have a ball and you spend your time literally whacking this ball at someone else. And if that other person like misses and ends up hitting themselves, or if they end up getting hit because they missed it, it's not your fault. So you've just whacked a ball as hard as you can at someone, hoping that it's so fast that it goes flying past them. But they've accidentally hit themselves and you aren't to blame at it. So in a way, even though the group seemed like a friendly group because they were all very together, it actually seemed like there was quite a lot of competitiveness. That there was a lot of competitiveness against them, and it's almost like an act of aggression. Like the whole of the session was almost an act of aggression. Usually it was the girls played with girls and boys played with boys. I think there was a big division with the girls and the boys in that. And I think the girls though too, like they were kind of like not nasty towards each other, but there was a nastier vibe in comparison to the climbing club. But the girl who I played tennis with also played climbing with, she also did tennis as well. And so I like to analyze people, how they change when in different groups. And that girl also had like a goth group as well, so she was getting in the sort of goth music scene and grunge and gothic. And emo as well, but I liked analysing people and how they changed when with different people, and there are a lot of them that I felt became the people around you affect how you are. Often you find that if you have different group, if you go around to lots of different groups of people, you almost become a different person because of the people that you're around. And I think that's very relevant for what's happening in England, because we're inviting all these multicultural people into our country, like from people from all over the world. Like if they're coming from Europe, I feel like it's different to outside Europe, because Europe is very similar and America is quite similar, and there's some countries that are very similar and there's countries that are completely different, and we're getting more diverse because the people in certain areas are living in areas that are full with Bangladeshis or Pakistanis, and I feel like a lot of groups are trying to be, it's kind of reminding me of at uni when I was going through all these different clubs. Cheerleaders as well. You would assume that the cheerleaders would be friendly people because it's all about positivity and looking good, working together. You need to work well to do the stunts and stuff. So you have to have a high level of cooperation with each other and teamwork. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of the cheerleaders were being inspired by American movies where the cheerleaders are all like bitchy, and you kind of think, wow, I want to be a cheerleading bitch. And I felt like that might have had a play on adding to bitchiness within the there was two teams there's like a more competitive team, one that wanted just to be the best, hence if someone wasn't in synchronize with everyone else, you'd almost be tempted to want to put shame on that person because you needed, like there was a lot more competitive people within that, because it was competitive cheerleading. I wanted to be a competitive cheerleader, but yeah, I also had a sort of relaxed approach about it, which is more that I actually preferred the skill. I preferred this stunting. I liked the unity with the stunting work, and the dancing was something that was more familiar to me. So I wasn't superly keen on the dancing. It was more the stunting that I liked being the flyer. and doing things that were challenging. I think with the stunting, you need to teamwork is very, very important. But when it comes to just the overall look of it, it's more important to be perfect in every move so that you all work as a team. But yeah, because I didn't make it onto the top team, I made it onto the second team. I definitely preferred the people in the second one, but yeah, it doesn't matter. But yes, I like to analyze things, and then I came back and I found this badminton. I didn't do badminton at the school, but I think badminton is not really competitive. Like, most people don't play badminton competitive. I think for me, badminton is better when you can hear pick, 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 pick. Like, if you can hit it really, really hard, but also make sure the person gives it back to you. That to me is a good badminton game. I don't like having to keep stopping and like keep picking up the ball, and I find that very tiring. Oh, he's dropped it. Oh no, it's like, so for me a good game of badminton is where you can hit it not only hard, not only fast, not only in the right direction, but you can also make it easy for the other person to hit back, because ideally what you want is for the other person to hit back so that you can hit, and then they can hit, and you can hit. It'd be interesting though to see if you could play do a team badminton where you have 2 pucks and 3 players, and the person that's like on their own has to try and synchronize. They all have to work together, synchronize and play so the puck goes dick, 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 and that way the person here has to work twice as hard. But that would be an interesting thing that I'd like, because badminton is not really about it's synchronicity with one person, so it's not. I don't know. With tennis, you can play it both for fun, or you can play it in a sort of harder way. Again, with tennis, I prefer to be on the more ease side, but at the same time, I do see tennis as a more aggressive sport, because you've got the ball, and if you've got anger, I like to throw the ball really hard, and it's almost like that stress release of getting that anger out. But also you got to make sure that the ball doesn't go flying out the court, because then you just end up losing the ball. But I like tennis. I like tennis more than badminton, but I know you need a lot of arm strength for that. In fact, that's probably why I started getting up, because I've always had strong arms, even before I did massage. Might have been all the tennis that I was playing. I was playing it about 8 hours a week, so I did a lot of tennis. But yeah, I feel like I don't have the energy that I used to have is just not there any longer at all, and I'm hoping it will one day go away. I keep getting headaches. And yeah, I came back and then I just watched a video. I was actually halfway through the video, but that video started talking about past life, Elon's past or something like that. Bride finding Elon's past, and that kind of made me think, I'd actually want to know about my past. I know what my past life was on Earth, and I don't, I don't think there's that much I can really learn from Eve. She was nothing, and Leah, well, her life was publicised, so you know a lot about it, but it was also very short. But when it comes to lives on different timelines, I'd love to know, like, what. I mean, I guess it's the same as this, but would I be able to do hypnotism to work out if any of the timelines were very different, or whereabouts in space they were? I feel like the box of chocolates can tell me how many. The celebration box of chocolates can tell me how many I've done on in the Milky Way, because I don't feel like I've been here very much. But it'd be interesting if I was like deep in some sort of hypnotized state. Would I start saying something different? Or something that would be really creepy. I always actually had a fear of that. Like I was always really curious about what my past life was when I was growing up, and the idea that I get hypnotized and then start saying that maybe I was like an Egyptian queen or something, and then start revealing that I like torturing people or something, because there was a lot of bad people in the past, and a lot of people were not nice back then, and there was a lot of people that were not nice people in the Egyptian times, and putting people in boxes full of scorpions. Now that is actually something that happened, and you can be the most nicest person on the planet right now, but that doesn't mean that 10 lives ago that's what you were doing. That doesn't mean you weren't doing that, because it's likely that in your first life you might have been putting people in boxes with scorpions, hoping that they'll slowly go through a horrible, slow, painful death. I mean, that's a very horrible thing to do, but part of reincarnation is you have life after life, and eventually people being cruel to you is going to bite you on the back, bite you in the butt, and you're going to find that you're no longer agreeing with the whole being cruel to people, because that's how people are cruel to you, by allowing people to be cruel to each other. But yeah, I don't know what the future holds. I know a lot of people are going mad, and people going mad is only going to want more people to want more deaths. You know, if a huge portion of the population was insane, there would be a huge number of people that are sane who would want the insane ones to just be killed. Now, if the number of mentally ill people is minor, you'd probably tolerate them all. But if it's getting bigger and bigger and worse, and there's more and more fear over these people, you know, it's going to want the smarter ones, or it's going to want everyone actually, to want these people gone. Why? Because the mentally ill ones are going to start saying, you know, you deserve to die for stupid reasons, and this fear can drive people mad, and it can make people want to attack others. But this fear, and smart people knowing that this fear is growing in people, and it might actually affect them in a negative way, you know, is going to create tension towards it. And I don't know why. Like, I could say that the level of mental illness increasing is actually a really bad thing, but if the whole scheme of it is to reduce the population, then the mental illness increasing is actually only going to make people want to start getting rid of the mentally ill ones. And well, once you've if you have some sort of laws that say, you know, if you're this mentally ill, it is better that you are put down. You know, if there is some sort of law that comes into place, you know, suddenly this sort of it's fine to kill people is going to start, you know, coming into effect. And then you might start thinking, well, yeah, this person's very mentally ill, but this person's expressing that similar kind of mentally ill, and they might not be as bad as them, but they are still a threat to society, and they are a threat to people because of this rage or anger. And you know, and where's the line? What line? If there is going to be you know, allowing people to make their own choices is a good way. You know, if people want to go in the rapture, if people believe that there is a heaven in another world, and I think you can definitely prove to people that other worlds exist through me, and through this, you know, if I've done 70 timelines before and people start to believe that, they are going to think that I am from other planets, and that death isn't the end. They're not going to fear death. Now, as soon as they start not fearing death, and if they're brainwashed into believing that there are like other planets that are alive right now, that are being operated by other different gods who are maybe at a more advanced stage in the timeline, and you can be welcomed into a more advanced stage. You know, this at the moment is at the beginning stage. Earth right now is only at, you know, when a baby is born, they don't really know what the word mum means. They don't know what a mother is. They recognize that there are people who feed them. They recognize breasts and milk, and that's about it. You know, my sister's son was being raised up by in a foster home. 2 months after being with this new family, you know, he's recognized that my sister is mum, and this partner is dad, and he's you know, he's adapted to this, and he's forgotten about his foster carer really really quickly. And you know, when kids grow older, they start learning the truth. And if you see the timeline as just being, you know, the timeline now is at the stage 2, and they're all becoming like 2-year-olds, and they're all starting to wake up to the truth. And when you're told that I'm your mum, you know, do you agree with that, or do you think that actually no, your raiser or carer is someone different? You know, and if you start believing that, and if you start thinking that I do actually have power here, and I have made the timeline, but you still don't want me, you still want something else, then I think this is going to encourage people to go. And I don't know, the more mentally ill people are, the more people are going to realize that actually this needs to happen, and it needs to be fixed. And okay, the truth is they are just going to be reincarnated, but we got to make sure that they're reincarnated into families that have the truth and accept the truth. So we can't just allow people who have the truth to leave, and all the people that don't have the truth or are completely inverted, But when people start going in the rapture, if there are lots of people who are literally going in the rapture, there might be a point where people don't know who's actually agreed to this and who haven't. And with AI and you being able to create images where people are saying, yes, I agree to this, if there are people who are really, really bad and need to go but are refusing to go, might actually be easy to kill them and then say, oh yeah, they did agree to this, and you could even show their family, yeah, they agreed to this, and that it could be like bullshit. So, doing the right thing is important. People shouldn't be forced to go if they are actually able to contribute to society. And taking lots of refugees from different countries into this country, giving them free accommodation for a year, and then finding that they do get a job, they have learned to speak English, and they have learned to pay taxes and do stuff. That might be a good thing. You've given them a year of free accommodation, but in return they are now paying rent. They are now contributing to society. They are now useful members of society. How many people do that? Have you got the statistics on how many people go in that, or versus how many people have just turned to crime or just turned to the benefit system? And I don't understand why the benefit system even exists. I never claimed benefits for the first 10 years of my life because I didn't really know it existed. Like, I knew my sister kind of claimed it, but to me that just seemed like someone who was claiming it when she didn't deserve it. Even I know when she had her mental breakdown, she kind of deserved it at that point. But when she first started claiming it, it was just like, it didn't make sense why she was claiming it, because there was nothing really wrong with her. We didn't even know she wasn't able to look after kids at that stage. She was just claiming it because she could. And it kind of bothers me how she was able to claim, she's able to claim £500 a month from benefit claim of being autistic, and then £500 a month from half. Well, she was actually earning £7,000 a year, £7,000 a year, because she for most of the time she had 3 quarters and only had 1 quarter. So for those 3 years, she was earning £7,000 from a year from that, £5,000 a year, £6,000 a year from PIP, and she was still able to claim. She had a free house. She had a house that she'd bought, an expensive house that she's bought, so she wasn't paying rent as well, and she was still claiming for a year, going to food bank and pretending to be poor. How many people are getting all these benefits and then still going to food bank claiming to be poor? It's one thing to do it because you've got all your rent and maybe your benefit money only just covers your rent. That's understandable. But how many people are earning all this money? Even when she started getting a job, she was still claiming food. Even when she was getting a job and earning lots of money, she still claimed food bank for about another 3 or 4 months. And I think it was only when that's after 3 months they told her that she literally couldn't come. So she was willing to go for free food bank for as long as possible until they literally wouldn't give her the food. And how many people just like that, just take as much as they can. And I know she probably does pay a lot of tax with all that, but yeah, I don't know, sometimes people take the piss, and it's not really, I don't know who's taking the piss or who's like that, or you come here, work for 2 years, and then just claim benefits for the next 10 years. There's got to be some sort of stop to that. And I saw an interview actually the other day, where someone was saying that they're going to change it so that people who only British people or people who've got a citizenship can claim benefits. And I thought that was a good idea. But this person doing the interview was just attacking these people, saying, but what about people who have been contributing, who are not citizens but have been contributing for 20 years? And she kept being like, well, if they have become a citizenship, then it makes sense. And they just kept focusing on, what about all the people that are contributing for 20 years? You know what? I think if you've been contributing to society for 20 years, you should have a citizenship. You should have a if you've paid huge amounts of taxes for the last 10, 15 years, and maybe even if it's 10 years, if you've worked for 10 years and you've been contributing huge, like thousands of pounds each year towards both in NHS and, if you've been paying stuff, maybe you should have some sort of rule where you don't have to be a British, you either have to be a British citizen or someone who has been living here for a certain time and paid a huge amount, like we're not just talking a couple of thousand, maybe not a couple of hundred a month or something, no, a couple of hundred a year or something. If someone's just paying like like £500 a year towards the tax, and what then you expect to get £5,000 a year for the rest of your life because you for 5 years were paying £500 a year or something. That doesn't, there should be a way. There should be the tax system should actually have an accurate record of how much tax people have paid. It shouldn't be disappear after 7 years. It shouldn't just disappear. You should have a lifelong record about how much tax a person pays, how much insurance a person pays, and then you should have another record about how much benefits they claim, how much benefit money are they claiming. And if one is considerably uneven, that is when it should be completely stopped. And you need to, if someone has only contributed £2,000 over the last 4 or 5 years, they shouldn't be allowed to start getting benefits. I know with me it is slightly different, because I haven't been able to work because of being God and feeling like there's some sort of spirit inside people that are just making people ignore me. So I know that if it was done solely on benefits, I should not be claiming benefits because I have not been paying tax. But the reason, well, I have been paying tax, but I've been paying minimum amounts of tax. But the reason why I refused to pay tax for a long time is because I didn't own a house, and I knew that if I didn't have a house, then I'm going to rely on the government to house me. Now, if I don't have a house and I'm relying on the government to house me, and the housing is about £2,000 a month, if I was to live in London, the government would have to be paying me about £2,000 every single month for me to just live. So they'd be giving me what? £22,000 a month just so I can live in a one bedroom apartment. I mean, if me not paying tax for 7 years so that I can buy a property, okay, I had to move to Birmingham because I couldn't afford anything in London, but if me avoiding tax so I can buy a property in Birmingham meant that for the rest of my life I don't have to expect the government to give me £22,000 each year just to be able to afford my rent, I've done you a favour. And therefore I do think there should be tax exemptions. If some people have literally been not paying tax so that they can buy a basic property, we're talking about, we're not talking about a huge mansion or something, we're just talking about just somewhere where they can live, and if by doing that they've actually saved the taxpayer a huge amount of money by not wanting or not needing to live off the taxpayer's money to house them, you've actually, that's a good thing. And I think the government is too busy thinking in boxes and categories, and they're not thinking that there's actually a lot of people that genuinely have reasons for wanting to tax evade. And are they putting people in prison for tax evading even if they don't have a house, and even if they're living in a really small tiny room whilst other people are just getting free houses because they've just come from another place and they say, I don't have any money? And how long do you house people for if they've come from another country as a refugee? Why would they even get free housing? I don't understand why you would give free housing to these people if they've just come from another country and said, I don't have any money. Surely if they've come to this country, they know how to work. Now, if they can work, surely you only need to house them for a month, and then as soon as they've got their month's salary, they should be able to pay for the rent that they're in. But yeah, if the housing market is just going up and up, and they're not matching with the average salary, which they're not in many cases, this is just causing problems. And why have you created this problem? You're creating this problem to try and solve the problem, but solving the problem means taking money off the taxpayer so that everyone becomes a lot poorer and they can't afford to feed the economy because they don't have the money to do that. So the economy is being destroyed. The people who are getting free housing are just getting free housing. Why? Because I don't know. I can't insult the government because I don't actually know what's going on, and I wish I knew. So I would like to actually have proper conversations with people, and I don't want to have a conversation with someone on the belief that I'm just a nobody. I want you to have proper conversation with me on the belief that I am God, that I'm Christ, that I don't know what's going on because no one is actually giving me the information, and I can't find the information on government videos because they're usually like 2-hour long-winded things, and you could listen to it and I can't hold in the information because it's usually drained with just a big long conversation full of shit, and I just want bullet points. I want bullet points of what my answers are, and there's a lot that I need, and I want to go into a house where I can talk to people about it and actually have what is going on. And who knows, in this interview that I found, there was one lady, that the person who was saying, "Oh no, that you have to. What about all the people who've been paying into the government, into the tax system for the last 20 years? What, are you not going to offer, and say they have an accident? You're not going to offer them benefits or anything?" He kept focusing on that and saying, does any other country? And another question: does anyone else in any other country have these rules? And the person kept saying, well, we have to focus on our rules and what we want to do. But I think in reality, she probably could have said, well, France does this, France does, or Italy. But I didn't think she knew. It sounded like she had no clue what was going on in the other country. She was saying, I'm focusing on this country. But it felt like she only said that because she has no clue what is going on in other countries. And I just, to be in a position of government and yet have no clue what other governments are doing, this just shows how much division there is in Europe. You've got all these European countries, and some are probably doing things really good, or some are having a correct way of handling things. Some people are learning a lot, and I think a lot more can be done when it comes to learning what works and what doesn't work. But people seem to just be focused on their own country and trying to just learn from the country's past rather than look at what other countries are doing. And I can't answer that question either, because I don't know what France is doing. I don't know what Italy is doing. I don't know what any of these places are doing. There seems to be just so much division when it comes to all sorts of things. I hardly even knew anything about the Islamic government. I'm God, and yet I know absolutely nothing about any Islamic country other than the couple of things that I've heard online and stuff. So there's no unity in this world. There's absolutely no unity, and I think I think a starting point would be to see me as being some sort of one world leader, because I am Christ, I am God, and I know plenty of people are inverted, but I'm wondering if the reason why no one knows at these things is because they're all copying me spiritually, and I don't know all these things. And if I don't know all these things, or if I don't take an interest in these things, how am I expected other people to know all this? That woman who was talking about the government and the choices that they were going to make in the future, it was like she couldn't say, are other countries doing this, because she didn't know. Why didn't she know? I don't know. I've not taken an interest. I don't know. I don't even know what's going on in my own country. How can I find out what's going on in other countries when I don't even know what's going on in my own country?